pair of amino acids within the DNA, and what you get basically is what's called a gene encoding. The gene that is the particular combination of those individual notes then becomes what the cell produces. The cell produces a protein. Protein could be something that helps it replicate, could be something that produces work, could be something that produces inflammation, could be something that produces other cells. So in that circumstance, what impacts the receptor site causes the DNA to behave in a certain way, which is the fundamental reason why you can say there is virtually no such thing as a genetic health problem. 97.8% of us are born with a perfect set of genes. There's nothing genetically wrong with the vast majority of people. Those who do have a genetic problem, you'll notice right away that they do. It's grossly obvious in most cases. So if you have a problem of, let's say these three are cancer-producing oncogenes, and you get cancer, what was the problem? The genes? No, everybody's got it. What's the problem? What's impacting the cell out here? What's pushing the button? 97% of all cancer is due to environmental toxicity. Somebody who says they have genetic cancer, they're very much misled for the most part. Give the example of Angelina Jolie, and we pick on her. She was stupid enough to believe somebody that simply because she had some genes common to her aunt who had breast cancer that she therefore thought she was going to have cancer. Only if she pushed the same genes. What does that amount to? Lifestyle. Do you eat the same foods? Do you have the same toxins? Do you have the same emotional state, et cetera, et cetera? Okay. So we have to understand that hormones are part of and one of the most dynamic things that hit these receptor sites. And again, because they're almost molecularly not there, they're almost pure energy. As they hit these receptors, they're very profoundly active at making the DNA do something. They're going to enact gene codings that are rapid. So, here's our problem. Oops. There you go. Again, when your glands produce, they don't just send their end product hormone to the cell and the cell is all happy. It doesn't work that way. It's not that simple, of course. Most glands actually just produce something called pregnenolone. And pregnenolone is a great big precursor, building block, doesn't do anything on its own hormone. Here is a chunk of stuff attached to a molecule of cholesterol that can be subdivided into anything that your body needs hormonally. So in other words, you can take pregnenolone and end up going the progesterone pathway, and then that makes aldosterone, which ends up also making other things. You can go to the cortisol hormone, which is the stress hormone for the adrenals. You can go to the DHA pathway, which is a brain hormone that makes people feel really, really good. That will lead either to testosterone or the estrogens. You're all women here. Do you understand that there's no such thing as estrogen? There's a grouping called estrogen. There's estrone, estriol, and estradiol. There's no such thing as estrogen. Okay. So when people speak, when they say the word estrogen, either they're very uninformed or they're talking about a grouping. Okay? But point is that all of these are pathways leading towards your end user product. The cells want the end user. Cells really can't use pregnenolone at all. They're going to use estrone or estradiol or androstenedione. I mean, they're going to use the end products. The way that this is constructed, though, is at any given moment, your need for a certain hormone may change radically. You don't want to wait around for your gland to react to that need. So this, being a building block that's all over the place, that can very quickly be converted to this, that, or the other thing, that's why your body has it. It's a more instantaneous response system when you have this precursor thing. And you can divvy it up based on instantaneous need. Okay? And here's the problem. When you are under stress, which I'm sure none of you are, but there are other people in this world who live with stress, one of the things that happens is that pregnenolone is there. It gets to DHEA, or it gets to progesterone, and the body perceives threat. Now, in our world, how many things do you encounter during your daily life that actually threaten your existence, that could kill you? How many times a day do you actually have your life threatened? Probably not in your whole lifetime, most people. Okay? Maybe a car accident, once in your life. Now, thing is, a bad phone call, an action movie, financial stress, relationship stress, all of those things, your body doesn't understand the difference between that and actual life threat. So your priority of your hormonal system is respond to threat, fight or flight. You've heard that phrase, right? If your existence as a being is at risk, you don't need to worry about whether you're fertile or not, right? Okay? Doesn't matter if you can have a baby if you're going to get eaten by the bear. So in that circumstance, the body has this prioritization mechanism that says, we don't need these down here if we're under threat, so therefore we're going to take the resources from here and from here, and we're going to shunt them over into the production of more cortisol to respond to those stressors. Do you understand where that becomes a problem? Now we have women who are progesterone deficient. They go to their medical doctor, and they get the blood test, and they find out that they're low in progesterone, and what do? They take progesterone cream and smear it all over their skin, or they take a progesterone pill. What did you just do? You just fed the cortisol system. Now you're going to have more available resources to make stress out of. And cortisol is also cortisol is very inflammatory as well. Okay? So you're low in this, here take more model is ridiculous because most of the time it's simply going to you're going to feed the fire in you. You're going to make more inflammation. And you may feel better for a time because you're going to have some of it go towards that end goal you want it to get to. In the long run, this is why hormone replacement therapy ended up creating an increased risk of cardiovascular health and cancer, or cardiovascular disease and cancer. So in that circumstance, we have to understand that this is part of a flow. It's a system. It's a complex process of chemical changes as it goes through the system. So what would we be better off doing than giving somebody progesterone? Two things that would be better to do. Number one, give them pregnenolone. Now, pregnenolone would stand a better chance of reaching up down here than supplying a almost end user product here. The other thing is, what if we eliminated this? What if we took cortisol out of the picture? Then all the hormones go, well, wait a minute, we're not in danger anymore. Yeah, let's go be fertile. Let's have a normal menstrual cycle. Let's give some thyroid out into the system. So the problem with all the fluctuations and deficiencies that people have in hormones, you have low T, here to this, armpit juice with testosterone in it. No. Okay. The thing is, take away the stressors. Now, how do you take away stress? Easier said than done. I understand that. But we're going to get to the point where we're talking about this. I want you to have this in your head because essential oils are one of the most profound ways that you can reduce your stress. Easily, with very profound and only small amounts needed to impact that cell, to have those oncogenes just not even be tripped. Hormones or oils can do that to hormones very easily. Now, there's no men in here except me, but I'm going to tell you that men actually have hormones. Believe it or not, I think it was in the second week of my practice, I had this older couple come in. They were in their mid-80s. And he was in because he was having some problems. And I'm measuring him, and we're doing a testing process, and coming up, I said, well, what's like, you have a low hormone level. Well, my wife peeps up, she was like, well, men don't have hormones. What she meant was that men don't have menstrual cycles. Of course men don't have menstrual cycles. But men, as you know, from the whole now prostate thing and the erectile dysfunction thing and all the commercials that you get to see on TV with guys sitting in the bathtub and all driving a motorcycle thing. Okay. You get to understand that this is a hormonal problem for men as much as it is for women, and it's called andropause. Andropause is the lack of testosterone dominance over estrogen. And in a man's body, the normal ratio of testosterone to estrogen is 50 parts testosterone to 1 part estrogen. That's a really dynamic ratio, isn't it? Add 1 part of estrogen, and what happens to that ratio? Literally cuts it in half to 25 to 1. Here's the problem. The body perceives we don't have a ratio anymore. And we're producing as much testosterone as we possibly can, but there's all this estrogen to fight against. So I need super, mega, ultra testosterone, which is known as dihydrotestosterone, DHT. DHT, in terms of this ratio, fills in the gap that's missing in that ratio and reestablishes the old 50-to-1, which is good for the ratio. Here's the problem. DHT is what causes prostate inflammation and ultimately cancer. So this huge epidemic of erectile dysfunction, prostate inflammation, and prostate cancer is due to not too much testosterone, but rather too much estrogen. But where does the estrogen come from? It's environmental. It's in the water. It's in the food, especially dairy. It's in plastics that food is stored in. I mean, you guys are smart. You got glass, you got stainless steel, you have paper. But what about all those water bottles that are plastic that are leaching estrogen mimickers into the water that then people are drinking? For a man, that's just desperately bad, because now you have estrogen going into the system, causing your body to have the need to make dihydrotestosterone instead of regular testosterone. This is where men's hormonal health problems all spring from. Too much estrogen. Very few men actually produce too little testosterone. It's just that the ratio is all goofed up. For the fertile female, we've got a few here. I presume that you're fertile. Okay. In this case, this is a model you may have seen back in health class in middle school when you're starting to get all your development going. And here's your day one, and at this point, estrogen is the dominant hormone. And then at day 14 or so, you get your follicular stimulating hormone, your luteinizing hormone spike, and you ovulate. And then estrogen dips down and progesterone peaks. And then if there's a pregnancy, progesterone stays high in order to keep the blood stuck to the lining of the uterus to create a bed for that fertilized egg to sit in. If there is no pregnancy by that point, progesterone drops dramatically, and poof, the walls, the blood on the walls sloughs off. And then that starts your menstrual cycle. The idea here is that these two hormones are pituitary hormones. They're produced in the pituitary gland in response to environmental cycles and actually, yes, the phase of the moon, which is why a normal cycle is 28 days. So at that point, those two hormones come down and stimulate the ovaries. Here's a problem. There are many other environmental toxins that can get into the system and mimic those. So you have women with 17-day cycles, you have women with 42-day cycles, you have women who are spotting in between, you have heavy cramps, cramping, PMS, etc. Most of those are due not to the problems of estrogen and progesterone, but rather where this spike may come in timing or whether it's even coming constantly. So if you're constantly saying, ovulate, 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 ovulate all month long, what do you think is going to happen? You're going to wear out the system, you're going to throw ratios and balances off, and now there might be a spike back here, and there might be a spike over here, but there's going to be a difference between a spike with high estrogen versus high progesterone. So all the hormonal symptoms that women have surrounding the menstrual cycle tend to be environmental toxins. Now you could also say that progesterone, remember, progesterone decreases as we have more stress. Progesterone can get low enough that women become amenorrheic. When does that usually happen? Extreme exercise. Marathoners, people who are really just constantly exercising. That is perceived by the body as enough threat that no, you shouldn't be having babies at this point. This is nature's birth control. It says, no, you shouldn't be fertile, so we're going to shut off your progesterone so you can't maintain even the corpus luteum on the inside of the uterus. So they become amenorrheic. They're still having ovulation, just nothing's happening. Just sloughs right out. Okay. So the fertile female, again, realistically speaking, environmental toxins and stress are the two worst enemies of this cycle happening probably. Now, for those who have ventured past a certain line in the sand, for women, there's something known as menopause, which tends to be a subject that elicits a lot of negative responses. At this point, what's happened to a woman's body? The ovaries have said, I'm done, no more eggs for me, I give up. I'm no longer a participant in this game. thing is, the production of pregnenolone still needs to occur. The body still needs it for a lot of different things, not just for having a menstrual cycle and possible pregnancy. So that is outsourced to then the adrenals. The adrenals then become responsible for your production of progesterone and estrogen. What is the status of most menopausal women's adrenal glands as they phase into menopause? Like most of America, they're shot. So what is the reason why most women who are menopausal have hot flashes and they grow a beard and they have vaginal dryness and they gain weight and all this stuff that happens to a menopausal woman? It's because they didn't have adequate adrenal resources to keep up with the demand. Okay? Another thing that happens, increased cholesterol production is a natural consequence of ovarian depletion. What does that mean? If you don't have enough hormones hitting the cells are going to say, we need more down here. And the body's simplistic response is, well, let's make more buses, maybe there'll be more passengers. So menopausal women go into their doctor, oh, I'm just turned menopausal, I'm not having a period anymore. Oh, your cholesterol's here. Hi, here, take the statin again. Okay? That's real stupidity. That's a fundamental lack of understanding about the system of hormones to say, here, don't have any more cholesterol, because cholesterol has a chance of taking what little production there is and delivering it. Now you're taking away the buses and the hormones. Okay? Elevations and depressions in blood sugar, thyroid function, and fat cells can create an emergency. Why do menopausal women tend to gain weight? Why do they accumulate fat? They can be semi-normal to normal weight all the way up to menopause, and suddenly, there comes the fat cells. Because fat cells produce estrogen. For the lack of estrogen production, and again, if you had adequate adrenal resources, it would eventually get down to estrogens. But because there's this lack of this estrogen stimulation to cells, I say we need more. So there's, in your fat cells, there's an enzyme called aromatase, and the aromatase manufactures more estrogen for you. So here comes the more fat.